Hi guys, this is Aaron Etheridge, lead developer for Lucid Dreamers. And this video is to give you a preview of a procedural maze generator that we're currently working on that we intend to publish as a Unity 3D asset. That will allow us to use it in future games as well as allow other developers to use it for a very low cost. I've got just a very simple demo scene set up here. I've just got an empty game object, global scripts. Right now it doesn't even have a component on it. What we're going to do is drag our procedural maze generator up and apply it to the empty game object. I'm going to walk you through the options and then we're actually going to generate a maze real quick. We've got the maze width, the maze height, whether or not you want it to have a surrounding wall, which I'll actually show you what that does in just a minute. You've got your generation options. Right now our only generation method is first depth search, but we're going to add Prim's algorithm and a few other things. With depth first search, you've got a couple of ways to pull nodes out of the stack. For those of you who know how first depth search works, and I'll show you what that does in a few minutes. You can find a custom generation point, which this is within the grid. You can either pick a random generation point or set your X and Y manually. It has to be within this range once that's set, which we're not even going to bother to do that right now. Your start location, you can either have the maze start from the generation location, a random location, or selected location. Obviously, you don't need a start location. You don't need an end location. But if you want them, where you can say, okay, start the player at this location, and when they reach this location, there's a door or stairs or whatever else you want to put in an end location. You can pick a random location, or there again, a selected location. We're going to come back to this real quick in just a minute. You've got a bunch of display options. There's a runtime GUI that you can turn on and off for debug purposes. There are a lot of things that you can turn on and off here where it's generated, what the start location is, end location, where all the dead ends in the maze are, and actually it's got a simple A-star pathfinder that we've written for this to be able to display the path. You can always make sure that the maze is solvable, which it always should be. It would only not be solvable if there's a bug that you run into. But on top of that, it allows you to make sure that when you're setting a random start location and end location, the distance between them is within a minimum, so that you don't get a random start and end location that are side by side. The GUI scale, you can set to whatever you want. That's the runtime GUI, and then there's a maze display scale for the editor. Okay, so let's set this up. We're going to make a 32 by 32 maze, which is actually a pretty good size maze, guys. When you actually see this is, in a game, that's a pretty good size maze. We're going to add a surrounding wall to it. Actually, we won't do that. I'll turn it on in a minute. We're going to leave everything else default, except we're going to go down to the random maze location. I want to require a wall or a dead end. We can require any wall, a specific wall, or a dead end. I like my mazes to end on a dead end. And we're going to turn the minimum distance up absolutely to the top. You'll notice this is just as if they had run from corner to corner. You could override this minimum distance to make it something even greater, but the problem is that the Pathfinder may have trouble finding a end point that's far enough out, which is why I set this up to be the default. You could override this in time, but right now that's what we've got it set for. All right, we're just going to generate our maze. Okay, this is our maze. This has been saved. This is actually part of the scene now. As you can see, it needs to be saved. What we can do is we can go under display options. Okay, well, first of all, take a look at that. See that area? Paint that in your mind's eye. We close this. We view the generated maze. See, this is the same maze. It's going to save this data. And so what we can do is pre-generate mazes for games. We can take a look at them, make sure they're like we want. If we don't like that one, we can generate a couple of different ones. And I'll show you. You see how this has a bunch of like hallways with different dead ends, and it's a bunch of short runs and dead ends. If we go up to the generation method and we change the DFS method from first in, first out to first in, last out, FILO, and then we generate again, you see you get a bunch, a lot of kind of longer looping, not so much dead ends. It's a bunch of corridors with a bunch of turns, and so either way, I like this one better. But you generate a maze that you like. Obviously, what we're going to be adding next is more generation methods. You'll notice that this is all, there's no wall here. That's what the surrounding wall is for, which I like. There again, you might want to have a maze where someone could just run into it from any of the edges and then have to find their way to a certain point. So right now, okay, let's look at our generation location. That's the white dot there. You can see we can turn that display on or off. Like I said, we can go up to, we can define a random generation point here real quick, generate our maze, and it was generated from right there. Now you may be asking yourself, what's the difference? With depth first search, there's not a big difference, but with some of the maze generation algorithms, at least in theory, changing the generation point could make a difference. And then we can specify, we want that as a generation point, and then we generate the maze. You notice there it is, and we can keep generating the maze from that point. And that's good too if you want to set a start location. For instance, you can set your start location from the generation location. So if we turn on our start location now, that's where it is. Let's turn off the custom generation point, and I'll play around with the start location now. So we generate the maze. Now the generation location went back to 0, 0, and that's where the start location went. We can make it a random location. This is just going to put it anywhere in the maze. You see the little blue dot. We can require a wall or a dead end there again, and we're just going to require a north wall. You can see every time I do this, there's a wall to the north. Okay. As I said, I like to require a dead end. Okay. Real quick, let me show you this. We can select the location. So we can select the start location now. We'll put it back there. But when we generate a maze, if we've chosen to select the start location, it tells us right there, select the start location. And we've got the same exact thing with end location. And I missed. You actually have to click within the maze. If you click a wall, it won't work. So and we've obviously run into a little bug. This was working beautifully yesterday. Let's go ahead and generate the maze. Oh, it is working. I'm sorry. I forgot to display the end location. You don't want to forget that. So there you go. A bit of embarrassment in this video. I've recorded too much to go back and start over. But look, this happens to the best of us guys. Okay, let me go ahead and turn this on too. You can see the dead ends. So like we're requiring dead ends. You can see where all the dead ends are if you want. And here's another interesting thing. We can display the path. Okay, that's from start to finish. So let's set these to random real quick. And you can generate the maze. And you get to see what the path is real quick. Let's turn off the dead ends. That's a little distracting. Okay, but you can see how far that path is. Now we can turn this minimum distance down to something else, and it may take us a couple of bytes to get, well, and then again it may not. You see, that's what the minimum start to end distance does for you. Okay, it makes sure that they've got to tread a certain reasonable amount to get out of the maze. And you can make changes on this if you want to, if you want to set the start location to generation location, boom. That would be a very bad maze.